angry or should be angry?
This raises questions about the system.
It's just a propaganda because the charges and everything that were against this woman were very clear.
You see, what the NDC is doing is very calculated and nobody seems to be paying attention.
But the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, has moved fast to put her back behind bars with a stay of execution and an appeal at the Supreme Court.
Now, with this judgment, I've also directed the Director of Public Prosecutions to file a notice of appeal and apply for stay of execution, meaning that if the stay is granted, the status quo will prevail.
But the opposition NPP has condemned the ruling, describing it as politically motivated and a setback for accountability.
Even when a court of competent jurisdiction has convicted them, they are happy to diligently with enforcing the judgment of the court. And then when it comes to appeal, they are happy to diligently. They will not present any cogent argument before the court. So that the court will be left with no option but to let go of their people. We would demand these answers.
So did the Court of Appeal get the law right, or has this damaged public confidence in fighting corruption? All the analysis and perspectives tonight here on Top Story. Top Story is brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies. Holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. Shield Pension Trust into the future with you. When we return from the break, we speak to a former Deputy Attorney General and speak to the politicians as well. Don't go anywhere.
If I become a millionaire, I will put a huge billboard right next to my ex's house saying, look at me now, I hate it.
As for me, I'm quitting my job in Star. Me Suma hates it.
Telecel is making millionaires this season. Not one, not two, but 3 millionaires. Each month, one lucky Telecel customer wins 1 million Ghana cedis for the next 3 months in the Telecel My Hits It promo. Plus, you still get to win 20,000 Ghana cedis weekly and 100 Ghana cedis daily. Bundle 10 Ghana cedis. Time or data, top up your Telecel cash wallet or your fixed broadband to stand a chance of winning. Visit the Telecel Play app or dial *500# to opt in for free into the Telecel My Hits It promo.
Telecel, connecting energies.
This promo is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas Lottery platform.
Ade. Couldn't sleep at night. Mosquitoes will be whining in my ears, bugging me all night long. Till I got a remedy. Now I'll be spraying them away with holy insecticide spray. I go spray them away with holy insecticide spray. When I sleep, me down with holy insecticide spray.
Holy mosquito coil, holy multi-purpose insecticide spray. Ghana Kron Kron. For bulk purchase, call 0302 681582. This advert is FDA approved.
Mula Sports. See the all sharp, no long thing. MulaSports.com.gh. Instant win, instant cash out. MulaSports.com.gh. Mula Sports, we dey run the city. Play, win, cash out. Yes, play and stand a chance to win Mula at MulaSports.com.gh. Enjoy premium soccer action, exciting trips on the aviator plane, and exciting spins on all your favorite virtual games. Mula Sports. More Mula. Bet responsibly. Gambling can be addictive. Not for persons under 18. This advertisement is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana.
Hooray! The Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited's Back to School promotion is here with us once again. From the 1st of August to the 30th of September this year, Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited is offering a generous 15% discount on all school items, including textbooks, pens, pencils, erasers, exercise books, and more, across all branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Takoradi, Winnipeg, and Cape Coast. Parents, teachers, and students, please hurry while stock lasts. For more information, call us on 0302 764 101 or 0302 764 209 or email info@kingdomgh.com. You can visit our website www.kingdomstoreonline.com. Kingdom Books, where quality and affordability are both assured. Terms and conditions apply. Palladium Residences in Achimota isn't just an address,
It's the home you've truly earned. Secure your place with just a 10% deposit and choose from beautifully designed modern apartments or spacious townhouses built for everyday comfort. This is more than a building. It's a vibrant curated community with a clubhouse, state-of-the-art gym and an on-site hotel, all at ABC Junction, minutes from Achimota Mall. Enjoy city energy whilst retreating to your private sanctuary. Call now to reserve your unit and benefit from limited launch incentives, including priority unit selection. Don't miss the chance to pick the best homes. Book your private site visit today. Call 050-9823-424. Palladium Residences. Live smart, invest better.
This is Top Story. My name is Kenneth. Gyasi. Is it justice or a miscarriage of it? That's the question many Ghanaians are asking tonight after the Court of Appeal acquitted and discharged former MASLOC CEO Sedina Tamakloe, overturning her 10-year prison sentence. Well, just 5 weeks after she began her sentence, the court ruled that the state failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. But Sedina Tamakloe's freedom may last only hours, because the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, has just filed an appeal at the Supreme Court and also warns the court to keep her in jail. We'll hear from the Attorney General and reactions from a section of the public who have already expressed anger and disappointment in the decision. But for now, the full judgment is out, and my colleague on the Legal Affairs Desk, Kweku Asante, is joining me via Zoom with details of it. Kweku, you've been going through the ruling by the court. What does it say?
We're going to serialize this, and we're going to put this in 3 parts. First, the point having to do with a preliminary legal objection that was raised by the Attorney General on the appeal, and 2, a part having to do with whether or not the charge sheet that was filed by the state in court was defective, and if it was defective, was it curable or not? And then the 3rd part having to do with the main issue, some of the accusations of stealing, money laundering, and whether or not the state proved its case beyond reasonable doubt. We should state that this was a 3-0 decision of the Court of Appeal, presided over by Justice Emmanuel Ankama, Justice Samuel Obingyewo, and Justice Emmanuel Senyo Amedahe. So let me talk to you first about the prognosis of the state that Sedina Tamakloe, being a fugitive of justice who had actually evaded the ability for the state to punish her, could actually file an appeal. The judgment, which was written by Justice Ankama, actually looks at first the procedure that was adopted by the Attorney General's office to mount that preliminary objection. The court found that it was faulty, but still decided that it was going to hear it anyway. The court ultimately heard that a person who has been convicted in absentia can still appeal, because appeal is conferred by statute, and where an appeal or the statute allows a person to appeal, and the specific processes that a person must comply with in filing that appeal has been complied with, whether the person was convicted in absentia or not, that person can actually appeal. So that preliminary legal objection filed by the Attorney General's office was dismissed. Then it goes to the second part of the judgment, which has to do with the charge sheet. And was the charge sheet defective or not? And if it was defective at all, was that curable? If you look at paragraph 60 of the analysis of the Court of Appeal judge, the court held that the counts alleging conspiracy to willfully causing financial loss to the state are incurably deficient, as in they are deficient to the extent that the court could not save it, and that they omit an indispensable ingredient of the offense, that is the particular act or omission which was willfully committed and by which the loss was occasioned. The court continues in paragraph 62 that apart from the date, the particulars are materially indistinguishable. They identify no conduct of Sedina and the financial secretary of the organization, which they allege to have agreed to act together with the specific purpose of causing loss to the financial loss to the state from which it flowed from. So the court held that the way and manner that the Attorney General's Department couched the charge sheet, which formed the basis of Sedina Tamakloe's conviction in 2024, was incurably defective. The court continued that the counts impugned disclosed no willful conduct by the appellant which caused the financial loss to the state, and that the state failed to give the accused the nature of the offenses, and that is also incurably flawed and fatal and cannot be remedied by evidence at trial. And then on the last part of this particular point of defective charge sheet, the court again goes on to say that the charges having to do with loss to public property suffered the same defect. There was no specific conduct that amounted to gross negligence which caused the loss to the public property. And so what the court did was to set aside as much as 34 counts as defective. And if you look at the face of the charge sheet, it discloses up to 78 different counts, and the court held that 34 of them were incurably defective, and the prosecution therefore could not be mounted on that. But that having been taken away, the court then went on to some of the main issues, some of the charges having to do with stealing, etc., etc. And the court took its time to analyze the various elements of the offenses and which of the parties had to prove what. So let's talk first about stealing, and let me give you a little story if to predicate this judgment of the Court of Appeal. Part of the accusation against Madam Sedina Tamakloe was that the MASLOC advanced a loan of 500,000 cedis to a certain organization called Obatampa, and then MASLOC wrote to them indicating the interest that would be paid on the amount, which was in 30%. The company then decided that that interest was so much that they could not pay, and so they decided to return the 500,000 cedis to MASLOC. The evidence that was led by the prosecution was to the effect that this 500,000 cedis was given to Madam Sedina Tamakloe, and that is why the state says Madam Sedina Tamakloe actually misappropriated that fund and stole that fund. But in the evidence, and that is the Court of Appeal referencing the record of the High Court, it says that there was no proof that Madam Sedina Tamakloe actually received that amount of money and actually wrote a letter of acknowledgement. There is a certain part of the judgment that talks about a letter of acknowledgement. The claim by the state that Madam Sedina Tamakloe wrote to Obatampa acknowledging that she had received the 500,000 cedis and actually signed on that letter. Madam Sedina Tamakloe, and if you look at the evidence that was led, denied that she had actually received that amount of money, actually written the letter, I should say, and said that the signature, even though it looked like a signature, is not hers. But the trial judge, that is the judge that actually held, that actually presided over the criminal trial, held that Madam Sedina Tamakloe had to prove that that signature was not hers. The Court of Appeal held that that was a misdirection on the law, and that as far as the criminal law is concerned, once Madam Sedina Tamakloe had denied that the letter was not from her or that the signature was not hers, it was up to the state to actually prove that the signature was hers. And once the signature and other things was not authenticated, that issue, in terms of the allegation of stealing, the state had not proven the charge beyond reasonable doubt. Because it's even in doubt if Madam Sedina Tamakloe received the money and wrote a letter of acknowledgement. There is a bit about misapplying funds and stealing 1.7 million cedis. The state case again was that Madam Sedina Tamakloe had used over 500,000 cedis belonging to MASLOC and close to, in fact, misapplying funds and stealing 1.7 million cedis, which was meant for a sensitization program. The court found that, quote, while a list of beneficiaries were tendered by the state and Yoko, the witness admitted that none of the beneficiaries had in fact been contacted to confirm whether the program was actually held. Because the state case is that Madam Sedina Tamakloe actually withdrew these funds of money for the sensitization program and did not hold the sensitization program. However, the Court of Appeal found that in the trial court, the state did not lead any evidence to show that that sensitization program actually did not happen. And in fact, quite fatally to the case of the state, a Yoko investigator who had been interrogated or who had been cross-examined in the case had actually confirmed that the program held. And let me read part of it. It says, the directors of MASLOC who claimed that the training didn't happen were not invited to court to actually testify, and this amounted to hearsay. Again, the court held that when it comes to this particular part of the charge, the state had failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. And then finally, there was also the 2015 Cantonment fire disaster, where Madam Sedina Tamakloe is again accused of withdrawing over 570,000 cedis, which was meant to be distributed to the Cantonment 2015 fire disaster victims. So the judge, again, the Court of Appeal held that the trial judge erroneously shifted the burden on whether or not the money had been withdrawn onto Madam Sedina Tamakloe instead of actually putting that on the Republic, because the Republic had to prove that Madam Sedina Tamakloe did not share the 579,000 cedis that had been withdrawn. And then again, quite fatally, another witness of the state actually confirmed during the evidence that part of the money was shared. And so the Court of Appeal found that this prosecution witness herself, having admitted that the money was shared, the claim that the woman, Madam Sedina Tamakloe, withdrew 579,000 cedis and did not share it to the victims of the Cantonment 2015 fire disaster was also incurably bad in terms of the state's inability to prove that case beyond reasonable doubt. Then you go to the money laundering and other things. And because money laundering is a predicate offense, the offense that is the basis for the money laundering, once that fails, the money laundering charge will also fail. So finally, if you look at paragraphs 121 and 124, the Court of Appeal judges have some words, some criticism of the work that the trial judge did in this case, to say that the judge lost sight of the fact that the prosecution must prove their case beyond reasonable doubt in this case, and that the prosecution's evidence fell short of the standard of proof beyond reasonable doubt, and then on the basis of that, consequently, quashed the conviction and sentencing. So in a sentence, the Court of Appeal's decision rests on two grounds. First, that over 30 counts in the charge sheet were defective in a way that they could not be saved. They were quashed and set aside. And then when it came to part of the charge sheet that was actually good enough, the state was unable to prove its case, and that the judge erred when he sought to push the burden of proving the case or proving otherwise on Madam Sedina Tamakloe instead of the Republic. And that is why the three judges, Emmanuel Ankama, Samuel Obindiewo, and Emmanuel Senyo Amedahe, held that Madam Sedina Tamakloe was convicted in error and should be set free, and have since quashed this conviction and sentencing.
Kweku Asante, thank you very much. He's a member of our legal affairs desk here at Joy News. Another member of our legal affairs desk, Fatal Bayaga, was also in court for us, and he's joining us right now for more on this. Fatal, you engaged the counsel for Sedina after that ruling. What was his reaction to the judgment?
And he was basically satisfied with the decision of the Court of Appeal. He said that, in fact, when they came to court, they said that the charge sheet was fundamentally defective. So the decision of the court holding or upholding their release was clear that their case was material. So basically, he was quite happy. I'm talking about Enoch Dogbe, who is the lead counsel for Sedina Tamakloe-Attionu. We can take a listen to him.
The crux of what Milord said today is that, in fact, Sedina, my client, is indeed acquitted and discharged, and that charge sheet which founded the allegations against her were defective, and so same could not have, as it were, founded the whole process or the entire process. Once the foundation was weak, then everything that follows will fall.
That's the lawyer for Sedina Tamakloe speaking right after that ruling. Meanwhile, we've also been hearing from another lawyer, Justice Abdullahi, who says this judgment feeds the suspicion of those who raise concerns about her return. Listen to him.
This really raises a lot of questions about what happened in the past and what we are witnessing today. A number of questions come up, but these questions are questions that we may not be able to completely come to a conclusive pronouncement on, considering that we do not have the basis of the decision of the court to acquit and discharge. But it does raise a number of questions. It does satisfy mischief makers and the naysayers who felt that everything that happened was a pure charade to do the bidding, and to literally free her. In fact, if you remember, even after the time that Sedina was returned to the jurisdiction, people raised a number of questions as to whether she was still in custody or not. And then came up almost simultaneously when she came, an appeal was lodged almost right and then. And within a record time, a decision has been made. So it kind of it tends to play into the trap of those who felt her return was a pure charade and not necessarily for a good reason.
We've also been hearing from the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, who says he has now filed a notice of appeal to the Supreme Court together with an application for stay of execution of the judgment pending the final determination of the appeal. Dominic Ayine addressed the press a while ago.
This morning, the Court of Appeal issued a decision unanimously acquitting and discharging Sedina Tamakloe-Attionu, who was convicted of various offenses in absentia because, she was standing trial, and in the course of the trial, she sought permission to travel abroad for medical reasons and then remain in the United States for the rest of the trial. The trial court convicted her of the offenses charged, and then an appeal was filed by her lawyers in May 2024. I want this to be made abundantly clear.
That's the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, during his press conference a while ago. Meanwhile, the opposition MPP has also reacted to the decision of the Court of Appeal, which they say Sedina Tamakloe's conviction was anchored on abundance of evidence, and a decision to overturn it defies law, logic, and common sense. My colleague Gemma Appiah is joining me in the studio with excerpts of that statement released by the opposition party a while ago. Gemma, what exactly does the MPP say?
So the NPP talks about the conviction of Madame Tamakloe-Attionu by her Ladyship Justice Appiah Sewasari-Botwe, and they're saying that at the time when she was convicted, there was the weight of evidence that was available to the court, and that led to her conviction. So the judgment detailed count after count the fraudulent disbursements, the unaccounted for funds, including monies meant for loan beneficiaries and for victims of the Kantamanto market disaster, as well as the deliberate schemes by which the resources of MASLOC were diverted. And so they say that a conviction anchored on such an abundance of evidence could be overturned in this manner defies logic, law, and common sense. The party goes on to talk about the many cases that the AG has discontinued since it assumed office. It talks about the fact that today's development merely completes that shameful project. That's according to the NPP. It says what could not be achieved through the front door of a nolli prosequi, given that the accused stood already convicted, has now been achieved through the back door. The pattern is unmistakable. If you're connected to the government of the day, the criminal justice system will find a way to set you free, no matter how great the findings against you are.
And you've also been gauging the mood and reactions by a section of the public. How are people reacting to this, both on social media and on the streets?
So, Ken, let's start with social media. This one is from Justice Appiah. He says, in discussing the matter, I expressed my surprise at people's surprise by saying the same people who freed the infamous Muntie 3 convicted criminals who had threatened violence on judges are the same people freeing Sedina Tamakloe. So what's the surprise? Doc Nasty says, so why didn't she come down after she filed her appeal? Of all times when NDC came into power is when her appeal was considered, when the tables turned, maintained the same principle. Freddie Berima on excess. This is how the downfall of NPP started, when they started defending everything they do in the country. Later, it overed them. Don't worry, we are in a community of reading men, so keep it up. More fire also on excess. That's what happens when you maliciously replace a Chief Justice for the first time in a country's history. It makes your intentions very clear for the masses. Mind you, this is not different from what happened to Collins, Dauda, and co. We've also been speaking to some people on the streets. This is what they had to say.
Honestly, we are not celebrating this one. Court of Appeal, they didn't just say Sedina was innocent. They said prosecution couldn't prove the case on technicalities, on defective charge sheets technicalities. This is the case we are talking about over $6 million of public money. MASLOC funds, we could use to empower small traders, even the recent flood victims and the rest. And then you come and say this on technicality. Charlie, every taxpayer we should be angry. Because the message I'm seeing here is loud and clear that get big enough, be a big person, have enough money, get the right lawyers, and the system will sort you out.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all, because this raises questions about the system, Yeah, I mean, we all saw the evidence, brought on board, and why the person was charged and all that. I mean, everything pointed to her. And then all of a sudden, NDC is in power, and they say that they can't prove, beyond doubt that the person is actually guilty. So you have to discharge the person and take the person home. How?
These political parties, I feel, is just a propaganda, because the charges and everything that were against this woman were very clear. Like, it wasn't as if they came out of nowhere. They were very clear that she was guilty. It makes me feel like if NPP also comes to power, they're going to say whatever convictions were placed on Wontumi are also not true. So they are going to pronounce him not guilty.
This whole Sedina Tamakloe issue is surprising to me, because initially she was charged to be in prison for 10 years for all her charges, and then she's been found not guilty of whatever she was charged some years back. I mean, does this mean that the moment NPP comes back to power, Chairman Wontumi is also going to be a free man?
That's the opinions of Ghanaians on the streets of this country. And Gemma, Appiah is still with me in the studio. The NPP has been making some demands. Briefly, what are they?
So the NPP says, since it is abundantly clear that the AG has no intention or whatsoever of protecting the public purse, the AG should, as a matter of consistency and fairness, immediately discontinue and discharge all appointees of the previous government, the NPP government, currently standing trial. They also talk about Wontumi here, and they say that he must be immediately acquitted and discharged. His conviction and the outrageous sentence of 20 years imprisonment with hard labor was politically motivated and procured without sufficient evidence. Then the AG must render a full public account of every case involving persons affiliated to the NDC that has been discontinued, withdrawn, or otherwise terminated since January 2025, together with the reasons. And the final one is that the Judicial Council and the leadership of the judiciary must take urgent steps to restore public confidence in the administration of justice. Ken.
Thank you very much, Gemma. Enoch Dogbe is Sedina Tamakloe's lawyer. Alfred Tuayeboa is the former Deputy Attorney General. Mary Ada is the Executive Director for Transparency International Ghana. Abraham Amaleba is the former Director of Legal Affairs of the governing NDC. Lady and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this evening. Let me begin with the lady, Mary Ada. Welcome to the program. Would you say this judgment represents a victory for the rule of law, or is it a major setback for Ghana's anti-corruption campaign, as many are suggesting? Do I have Mariada with me? Right, unfortunately, I do not have Marietta. Let's go to Alfred Tuah-Yeboah. He's a former Deputy Attorney General. Mr. Tuah-Yeboah, welcome to the program. You also played a key role in the legal strategy that ultimately secured Sedina Tamakloe's extradition from the U.S. to this country. Did you ever anticipate that the conviction underpinning that extradition could later be overturned, as we have seen now? We're still working the phone lines to get them on the line to speak to us. Alfred Tuah-Yeboah, as I mentioned earlier, is a former Deputy Attorney General. Mary Ada is with Transparency International Ghana. And we also have Enoch Dogbe, who is the lawyer for Sedina Tamakloe. Abraham Amaleba is a former Director of Legal Affairs of the governing NDC. Mr. Amaleba, do I have you? Right, you're still listening to Top Story here on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra and numerous affiliates across the country. We're working the phone lines and our Zoom connection to establish connection with our guests on the lines for us. As I've mentioned earlier, we have Abraham Amaleba of the NDC, Mary Ada with Transparency International Ghana. Alfred Tuah-Yeboah is a former Deputy Attorney General as well. Let's listen once again to the Attorney General during his press conference.
This morning, the Court of Appeal issued a decision unanimously acquitting and discharging Sedina Tamakloe, who was convicted of various offenses in absentia because, she was standing trial. And in the course of the trial, she sought permission to travel abroad for medical reasons and then remain in the United States for the rest of the trial. The trial court convicted her of the offenses charged, and then an appeal was filed by her lawyers in May 2024. I want this to be made abundantly clear that it was my predecessor who filed the appeal. However, coming into office, I reviewed what was filed, and I directed the Director of Public Prosecutions to file opposing the appeal because we believe that the High Court judgment had merit. Now, with this judgment, I've also directed the Director of Public Prosecutions to file a notice of appeal and apply for stay of execution, meaning that if the stay is granted, the status quo will prevail until such a time that the Supreme Court has had time to review the appeal and then made a determination. So that is all that I can say for now. I have a soft copy of the judgment. I'm yet to peruse it and then come to a firm conclusion as to what will be our grounds of appeal. But I want to emphasize that I believe that the judgment of the High Court had merit and that the United States District Court that extradited her to Ghana had a basis for making a determination that she was the proper subject for extradition. And that is all that I will say for now.
That's the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, during his press conference earlier today. Let's go once again onto the telephone lines right now and speak to Abraham Amaleba. He's a former Director of Legal Affairs of the governing NDC. Mr. Amaleba, do I have you? Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Already, there are concerns from the opposition NPP and a cross-section of the public that this really is a travesty of justice and this is undermining our efforts, our long-year efforts to fight corruption in this country. What do you make of this?
The law is not about emotions. It's not about what you think. It's not about how you feel. The law is what it is. Does Attionu have the right to appeal against a conviction? The answer is yes. When she went to court, was her discharge and acquittal based on merit? You heard your reporter who dissected the case and told us that 34 of those charges were said to be defective. The others were not connected to her or something like that. They couldn't prove them. Now, I expect people who are against the ruling of the Court of Appeal to focus on these items. One, the 34. Can they show that they were not, what is it? They were not badly drafted? Can they show? Whoever is going to speak, pin them to these things. Can they show that they were not badly drafted? Can they also show that the other charges that were said not to be connected to her are connected to her? That is how we would then be able to get to the bottom of this matter. But if it is political propaganda, I'm afraid we won't get to the bottom of this matter. We'll just be going in circles.
Don't go yet. Stay with me. I'll come back to you. Abraham Amaleba is a former director of the NDC's Legal Affairs Directorate. And let's bring you News 9 right now. The headlines, Gemma is standing by. Gemma.
Well, tonight's government says no to stripping the Attorney General of anti-graft powers, but yes to separating the AG's office from the Justice Ministry.
The Attorney General will remain the principal legal advisor of the Republic and the repository of the prosecutorial authority of state, but will cease to be a minister of state and a member of cabinet.
And that's just one of many constitutional reforms government is backing, including a 5-year term for president and MPs, dual citizens in public office, a cap on parliament, and big changes to the judiciary.
The government has accepted that the size of parliament be capped, and we propose a ceiling of 300 members. Now, the current membership of parliament is 276.
We bring you more details on government's position on key constitutional reforms. Also, he was an inventor, entrepreneur, and founder of Christo Asafo. Today, Apostle Kojo Safo Kantanka was laid to rest in Gomwa and Porta amid claims of an injunction.
He challenged Africa to think beyond dependence and to embrace self-reliance through knowledge.
Despite his many accomplishments, he preferred to shine the light on others, celebrating their success and supporting their dreams.
In business,
bulk oil distribution companies switch to spot pricing, a development which could lead to fewer prices being reviewed at the pumps every day.
And later in sports,
UEFA threatens to boycott all FIFA organized competitions until proposals to sell stake in World Cup are shelved.
And on your say,
at what age would you send your child abroad to study if you had the means? We tell you why Speaker Alban Babin says some children sent abroad may not even return for their parents' funeral. As always, you can be a part of the conversation and share your thoughts on all our stories on X with the hashtag Newsnight or by text and voice notes via WhatsApp line 055 1111 997. Do keep them brief, straight to the point, and within 20 seconds.
Stay with us for details of these and more. But before then, Ken.
Yes, indeed. And as I mentioned earlier, we have Abraham Amaleba on the line. He's a former Director of Legal Affairs of the governing NDC. Former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuayebua is also joining the conversation. Gentlemen, welcome once again. Mr. Amaleba, now we are hearing that the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, is filing a stay of execution. Many are saying it's a bit too late. Do you think it's a little too late for him to do that now?
How is that too late? Because this judgment just came this morning, and if the Attorney General feels dissatisfied with the ruling of the Court of Appeal, he has asked that this should be done immediately. And so how is that too late? It's not too late because what we are hearing did not occur 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. What we are hearing occurred this morning. And he has rightfully asked the DPP to file an appeal. And that is what the law is about. If you are dissatisfied, you apply for an appeal. So what the Attorney General seeks to do is to say that I'm dissatisfied, and so I want to appeal against the ruling of the Court of Appeal, and possibly that could also be overturned at the Supreme Court. So let's allow the justice system to run its full course.
Are you hopeful that that's going to work?
I am not God. I didn't even know this particular outcome. So how will I know the Supreme Court one? If the lower court one I didn't know, how will I know the Supreme Court one? I'm not in that position to engaging guests.
Don't go yet. Alfred Tuayeboah is also with me. He's a former Deputy Attorney General. Mr. Tuayeboah, welcome to the program. You were part of the extradition processes that brought Sedina Tamakloe to Ghana to face the law. Are you surprised? Do you ever foresee that we were going to get to a point where she would win an appeal, which eventually sees her coming out of prison anytime soon? Mr. Tuayeboah, do I have you? Kindly unmute your microphone so we can hear you.
Yes. So, with respect to whether I anticipated that she was going to be set free, I knew that she had the right to appeal, but I never had in mind that the Court of Appeal was going to set her free on the grounds that I've seen in the judgment that they delivered today. And so I'm surprised.
Well, the Court of Appeal said that it identified evidential shortcomings and legal defects. Looking back, do you believe prosecutors should have conducted the trial differently?
Not at all. Let me also commend the hard-working attorneys at the Office of Attorney General, the hard-working investigators at Yoko, who took time to go through this matter and also help in the prosecution of this matter. The evidence on record, I can say without any equivocation, is so solid that the decision of the Court of Appeal to set her free on the grounds that the evidential burden was not met is rather strange and also very surprising. I've gone through the record because I was part of the prosecution along the line. If you look at the extent of the evidence, for instance, regarding the 500,000 Ghana cedis that MASLOC advanced to a microfinance company in the Ashanti region. When the company received the check, ADB check, the company asked about the conditions attached to the loan. They realized that they could not meet the conditions. So they requested that they were going to write a check and send the money back or the check back to MASLOC. The board chair of that institution was then called by Madam Tamakloe, and Tamakloe insisted that the money should be in cash. So they withdrew the money in cash, 500,000 in 2014, came to Accra. That's part of the evidence. Came to Accra at a filling station at Pachuna, gave her the raw cash, and then she gave them a note acknowledging receipt of that money. If this is not evidence that a Court of Appeal should accept, then what else do you expect a court of law to accept? Secondly, there was a fire outbreak at Kantamanto. The president, then President Mahama, then in his wisdom, decided that the traders should be cushioned. An amount was voted for that purpose, over 1.4 million Ghana cedis. The audit that was done showed that less than 800,000 Ghana cedis was used. The remaining amount will not be accounted for back. And then, so he was charged with that offense. There was also an instance where an amount of close to 1.8 million Ghana cedis was voted for sensitization of MASLOC customers nationwide. Over 80,000 of them were to go to the 10 regions. Evidence on record shows that Madam Sedina Tamakloe went to only 3 regions. And guess what? Out of this 1.8 million, spent only 1,300 Ghana cedis. The remaining amount, she kept it. There's also evidence on record to show that there was an amount of 246,000 Ghana cedis which was voted for financially trusted. That amount was not used for that purpose. Not even one peso was used, but the money never went back to MASLOC. That there is no evidence on record, then I beg to differ. Then it will only mean that if you want to get evidence to prosecute, you must bring Jesus Christ or Muhammad for the person to be testified. Aside from this, the evidence on record, I can also say without any equivocation that the reasoning by the Court of Appeal that a charge sheet was or is defective is also not something that we should also accept. Why am I saying so? Granted, the charge sheet was even defective, which I deny. if the Court of Appeal had adverted its mind to specifically Section 31, subsection 2, the Court of Appeal would have come to a conclusion that Tamakloe should be acquitted and discharged because the charge sheet was or is effective. For avoidance of doubt, I just want to read that section, Section 31, 2. That the appellate court shall dismiss the appeal if it considers that a substantial miscarriage of justice has not actually occurred, or that the point raised in the appeal consists of a technicality or procedural error or a defect in the charge, my emphasis, or indictment, but that there is evidence to support the offense alleged in the statement of offense in the charge or indictment or any other offense of which the accused person could have been convicted on that charge or indictment. This means that even if you find at the court that the charge sheet that was used was or is defective, you don't go ahead to say that that person should be discharged. If there is evidence on record, which in this case, mountain of evidence on record, and so on what basis the Court of Appeal did hold that the foundation document was defective, so not anything that was built on it can also not stand. I mean, that's a misapprehension or misunderstanding of the relevant provisions in the Court Act. If you also take the Criminal Offences, Criminal Procedure Act, Section 406, Section 1, you have the same provision there. And so the Court of Appeal, with all due respect, erred big time, never adverted its mind to the laws that we have in our statute books, and decided to acquit and discharge Tamakloe without any basis.
Mr. Tuayeba, don't go yet. Abraham Amaliba is still with me. He's a former Director of Legal Affairs Directorate at the NDC. Mr. Amaliba, do you agree with the assertion by the former Deputy AG that the court erred in this?
I don't need to agree with him or disagree with him. What is important is that the Attorney General has appealed. I hope that the grounds of appeal would include what he's saying if they are meritorious. I don't need to agree or disagree with him. Just like how the Attionu's lawyer also saw a defect and exploited it to her advantage, so also can the Attorney General also see the defect, and then that's the beauty of the law. That's why you have one person, High Court, 3 people, and 5 people or 9 people. So we knew as a people that there will be challenges such as this, and that's why the appellate system was put in place. So I think that once the Attorney General has appealed, some of these things will find their way in there, and then we'll hear what the Supreme Court will say.
The opposition MPP has released a lengthy response to this decision by the Court of Appeals, and part of it says that this is a major blow to Ghana's fight against corruption and evidence of what the party describes as a politicized justice system. What do you make of that assertion by the opposition party?
Well, as for political parties, they would definitely have a bite on this. The propaganda would continue, but I like the way the Deputy Attorney General is dissecting the issues. We see that he is staying on the law and not playing to the gallery, talking about the fact that it is going to be against the fight against corruption. It's going to be against the fight against corruption. What is important is that every person, and see, the Constitution says every Ghanaian, every person. So even a Nigerian, a Sudanese can go to court and vindicate his rights. So once Attionu took advantage of that, and the 3 judges agreed with him, so also can the Attorney General go to the Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, and have the Supreme Court agree with him too. So I don't think that we should pay attention to the MPP's propaganda. Today, what is his name? Wuntumi is filing an appeal. So if the Court of Appeal agrees with Wuntumi's position, will that also be politics? They should give us a break.
Abraham Amaliba, thank you very much. He is the former Director of Legal Affairs with the governing NDC. I still have Alfred Tuayeba with me. He's a former Deputy Attorney General. Mr. Tuayeba, Attorney General says they are not going to rest on their laurels. Already, they have filed a stay of execution at the Supreme Court. What do you make of that decision that has been taken by the AG? Proactive?
The decision to appeal is something that I expected to be done, but we also be looking at how committed the Attorney General will be to that process, to ensuring that the Court of Appeal judgment is set aside. Because if that judgment is not set aside, I've indicated somewhere that the kind of situation that is going to create is such that our fight against corruption is going to be a mirage. It's a test case that all of us will be watching. And to the judiciary, I think they're also part of the fight against corruption. And if this particular judgment is what the judiciary is giving to us as its share of the fight against corruption, then I'm afraid we may not go or get to where we want to go. And so the Attorney General, if honestly, from his heart, deep down his heart, thinks that he's going to pursue this appeal, we'll be watching to see what goes into it.
Mr. Alfred Tiayabua, thank you very much for your time this evening. Adam Senan, who is also joined the conversation, is an anti-corruption campaigner. Mr. Senan, welcome to the program. Already there are concerns from a cross-section of the public that this will derail and thwart our efforts in fighting corruption in this country. Is that something you agree with?
Well, yes, to the extent that we don't have the full ruling, and there's no clarity on how we arrived at this point, it does not send the right signal. I think that just in the same way as the Supreme Court chose to have its ruling provided, because the issue was very sensitive, that's the same kind of approach we should have used so that it does not begin to suggest that something untoward has happened. I think the AG has taken the right action to say they're going to the Supreme Court to stay execution. We will see what happens in the days and weeks to come.
That's interesting. Are you concerned that this outcome could discourage public confidence in future high-profile cases of corruption nature like this one?
Well, knowing Ghana, it will not lessen our interest, but our confidence in what the kind of outcomes will be is something that will be dented because there's really no clarity. Question would be, are there monies that have been lost? Is there money that should be retrieved? Does this serve the greater interest of all of us? At the moment, I'm not quite sure that it does. So the AG following up on this would be very critical to how we interpret it for the future.
Right. And if the prosecutors fail to establish the offenses beyond reasonable doubt, as the Court of Appeal is saying after years of investigation, what do you think that say about the quality of corruption investigations in this country?
Well, we have said that it is much better we have a specialized anti-corruption court, and everybody in that value chain actually ought to be trained. I've said that in Kenya, they have a specialized anti-corruption. In fact, they have 13 of them, 12 or 13 of them, and the cases are handled within 6 months. It's a deadline. They sit every day, and everybody is trained to understand the context and the nature such that everything is facilitated. So it might just be that we need to do much more capacity building or awareness creation, or much better still have specialized court systems for this, so that those who are judging, those who are investigating, who are prosecuting, have a stronger grasp of the issues and can deal with them in a way that facilitates getting conclusions to the matter.
Adam Senanu, thank you very much for your time this evening. He is an anti-corruption campaigner. And earlier, we heard from Alfred Tiayabua, who is a former Deputy Attorney General. He helped with the extradition of Sedina Tamakloe from the U.S. to Ghana. We also heard from Abraham Amaleba. He's a former Director of Legal Affairs at the governing NDC. Let's bring you more stories this evening, Gemma.
Well, before we bring you more stories, the NPP MPs have also been speaking to Joy News in Parliament. They have dismissed the AG's announcement of an appeal as mere settings and a public relations gimmick, questioning whether the government is genuinely committed to mounting a strong appeal before the Supreme Court.
Do you believe the Attorney General when he says so? It's just making those pronouncements to kind of appease or send a signal to Ghanaians that he doesn't agree with the court. But you and I know that there is no way he's going to be committed to a strong appeal process that will lead to a possible conviction of one of their own. As I said, they are not committed when it comes to the fight against corruption.
Legally, we are told that the AG says he's going to appeal. Well, I have no faith in that appeal because I know that they are not going to put any serious fight. It's just political gimmickry, if you ask me. I think that they want the people of Ghana to know that they're doing something about it. Mark my words. The woman is going to walk free. She's not going to suffer any punishment for what she did. It tells us one thing, that in this country, our fight against corruption is just on the face value. We don't mean it, especially this government.
They monitored the sentiments of Ghanaians upon the ruling of the Court of Appeal. Then I see this as an afterthought, and the backlash and the pressure that they are attempting to even appeal against the decision of the Court of Appeal.
He's doing that because this was not received well, particularly by some of the people from our stock who had joined them, from the middle class and the CSOs. You see, what the NDC is doing is very calculated, and nobody seems to be paying attention. I'm going to tell you this. This whole thing is a sequence. They planned the date for the judgment such that it will meet the issuance of the white paper on the constitutional review, deliberately accept the reduction of the age for the president to 39, so they think that the youth will celebrate 35, so that the youth will celebrate.
So you had MPs, minority MPs in Parliament. Away from that, government has rejected calls to take away the Attorney General's power to prosecute corruption cases, but it has accepted the proposal to separate the office of the Attorney General from the office of the Minister for Justice. The decision is part of government's official response to the Constitution Review Committee, chaired by Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. The committee wanted the AG's corruption prosecution powers moved to a new independent anti-corruption and ethics commission, and for that body to merge with the office of the special prosecutor. It also wanted court approval before any prosecution is discontinued by the AG, and Minister for Justice disagrees. Presenting government's position paper, Dr. Dominic Ayine explained why government is rejecting it.
The committee recommended the establishment of an independent anti-corruption and ethics commission with the power to investigate and prosecute corruption, and to assume the functions of the office of the special prosecutor. The government accepts the proposal in principle, but the objective does not require a constitutional amendment. The government will, through the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which is currently before Parliament, establish a public ethics commission with the power to investigate and, in some cases, prosecute acts of corruption and conflict of interest involving public office holders and their collaborators in the private sector. Its mandate would be similar to that of the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau of Singapore, but unlike that bureau, it will be independent of executive control. Ladies and gentlemen, this briefing would be incomplete without me telling you about the changes affecting my own ministry. It is not every day that a minister stands before the press to announce the splitting of his own ministry. The committee recommended removing the Attorney General's authority to prosecute corruption offenses and recommended requiring leave of the court before a prosecution will be discontinued. So,
Now, Dr. Dominic Ayine said government accepted the proposal to extend the tenure of the President and members of Parliament from 4 years to 5 years to provide administrations with adequate time to govern effectively. The recommendation does not apply to the current President and MPs.
The government has accepted a recommendation to extend the term of office of the president from 4 years to 5 years, with the term of parliament extended to correspond with this. Our thinking is practical. Under the current 4-year cycle, the early months of every administration are consumed by transition matters, and the final year is largely consumed by elections. A 5-year term provides a more realistic time frame for the formulation, implementation, and assessment of government policy. Still on the presidency, the committee recommended that the minimum age of eligibility for election as president be reduced from 40 years, currently in the constitution, to 30 years. The government has accepted this recommendation in principle, subject to one modification. The minimum age will be 35 years. Not 30 years. And of course, the details of this will be fashioned out by the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee. The current threshold of 40 years excludes qualified citizens from seeking the highest office on the basis of an arbitrary age limit. 35 is consistent with a trend in modern democratic constitutions towards greater inclusivity of the youth, whilst ensuring that a candidate for the highest office has attained a measure of maturity and experience to handle that office.
The government also accepted the committee's recommendation to allow Ghanaians with dual citizenship to hold public office, with the exception of the offices of president and vice president.
The government has also accepted a recommendation on dual citizenship. A citizen of Ghana by birth who holds the citizenship of another country will no longer be barred from contesting for election to parliament only on account of his or her dual citizenship, and will not be required to renounce the other citizenship. The current disqualification sits uneasily with our engagement with the diaspora and with the realities of modern citizenship. In line with this proposal, it is also the case that multiple citizenship will no longer disqualify a person from holding certain offices, except that of president and vice president of the republic. So the fact that you have multiple citizenship will not bar you from becoming Chief Justice of the Republic, or becoming the head of the Electoral Commission, or, for instance, becoming Speaker of Parliament.
Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Agbagba joins us live from the presidency. Maxwell, what are the other key highlights of the government's position on the recommendations by the Constitution Review Committee?
Well, Gemma, quite a number of them. The government has accepted a proposal to hold presidential elections in the first week of November. We know we used to the December 7th date, but the government has accepted a proposal to hold presidential elections in the first week of November, saying that the fixed election period will provide certainty for the electoral calendar and allow adequate time before the inauguration of a new president on January 7th. Now, the government has also accepted the principle that the president should not enjoy tax exemptions by virtue of his office alone, and will pay tax on salary, allowances, and applicable indirect taxes. Now, we know that the issue of Article 71 holders ex gratia has dominated a lot of conversations. Now, the government has accepted the establishment of an independent public emoluments commission to determine the salaries, allowances, facilities, and privileges of public officers, including the president and other Article 71 office holders. Now, it says the move will replace the current system under which a committee appointed by the president determines the emoluments of office holders.
The government has accepted that the size of parliament be capped, and we propose a ceiling of 300 members. Now, the current membership of parliament is 276. So of these, the 276 will be elected directly in constituency elections like we already have. The remaining 24 will be elected or selected through proportional representation among women, persons with disabilities, and the youth. An independent study will be commissioned into the design of the proportional representation element. Capping parliament saves costs, and the reserved element opens the door of our legislature wider to those our politics has historically kept on the outside.
So we can also hear from the Attorney General on what's next for this particular recommendations that they have accepted.
Now, the roadmap is set out in this position paper for amendments of the Constitution is set out in this position paper, and it is deliberate and time-bound. Following today's publication, the President will swear in the Constitution Review Implementation Committee. The CRIC, or CRIC, will prepare 2 Constitution amendment bills simultaneously. The first bill will cover the amendments to the non-entrenched provisions of the Constitution. It will follow the procedure in Article 291 of the Constitution. That is publication in the Gazette, laying in Parliament, a referral to the Council of State for advice, and passage by 2/3 majority of all members of Parliament, followed by presidential assent. The second bill will cover the amendments to the entrenched provision. That bill must travel the road prescribed by Article 290 of the Constitution.
That's the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine there. You're still listening to News Now here on Joy 99.7 FM. Remember, you can be a part of this show by sending us a WhatsApp on 055 11 11 997. Share your thoughts with us from all the stories we've been sharing with you so far. You can also send us a voice note. Let it be a maximum of 30 seconds. We will share your thoughts with the rest of the world. It's time for business, and George is here. George, what's coming up?
Well, Kenneth, coming up, bulk oil distribution companies switch to spot pricing, a development that could lead to fuel prices being reviewed at the pumps every day instead of the current 2 weeks band. And Ghana's trade surplus for last year increases by 3-fold to hit 148 billion Ghana cedis, as total value of export reaches $32 billion, with gold again being the major driver. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials, Synthesis tanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
Your home could be anything you want it to be. It could be a stadium.
He's just 12 yards out. He shoots.
Oh,
yes.
Hey, what a strike!
It's a goal.
Or a gaming arena.
Yes, let's go.
Sometimes a classroom.
Madam, please, I don't understand.
All right, let's go over it again. Which part don't you understand?
The whole show.
Or it could be an office.
How many orders are ready? Okay, send them to East Legon first.
Or even a research center.
Daddy, what is the Big Bang Theory?
Wait, let me ask ChatGPT.
You can make your home anything you want it to be, because no matter the experience you want at home, MTN Fiber will power it. Get unlimited internet up to 500 megabytes per second from as low as 299 Ghana cedis. Connect your home or business today. Visit the My MTN app or dial *5057# to check fiber availability and request now.
MTN.
We dey blast them. Who dey blast? We dey blast them. Who dey blast? We dey blast them. Brush your teeth. Brush your teeth every day and night. After eating before bed, brush the germs away. The sugar jam, we go brush them. Fufu jam, we go brush them. Rice jam, we go brush them. We go.
When it comes to your teeth, Funnel World Cup. Brush them twice daily with Pepsodent, now in limited edition packs. This advert is FDA approved.
Cast your mind back to 2022. The prices were rising. The stress was high. Every liter of fuel felt like a sacrifice. Do you remember who stepped forward first? When others were comfortable with high prices, Star Oil chose you. We cut our own profits so you could keep your AC on, keep your engines running, and keep your life moving without a heavy burden. We gave you room to breathe when things felt tight. Because of you, our star savers, we became number one. Today, the pumps are a battleground. Others are finally cutting prices because they have to. But Star Oil, we do it because we want to. Don't just chase a price, remember a friendship. We were there for you then, and with new innovations coming your way, we are here for you now. Star Oil, still quality and affordable fuels for all.
Introducing Ghana's leading pay-as-you-copy photocopier leasing company. Lease an A4, A3, heavy-duty or production machine and pay for only the copies made or design your own payment plan. Simple and tietia. That's not all. Incredibly, toners, repairs, maintenance, follow-me printing, centralized tracking all come free of charge. Remember, financial prudence is the name of the game. Folks, forget about the expensive gimmicks and be smart. Join the hundreds of satisfied clients across all the 16 regions and every sector of the economy and save over 60% of your printing costs. Visit us at www.valexlease.com or call 0244 644048. Be prudent and lease a copier. Terms and conditions apply. Valex Lease is a wholly owned Ghanaian company. Valex Lease, affordable document management solutions.
You know that feeling. A hospital bill that arrives out of nowhere. A diagnosis you weren't prepared for. A system that seemed designed to confuse you and costs that keep climbing. And the stress of not knowing if you are protected. Eden isn't lost. Eden Care was created to give it back to you. Eden Care is health insurance made for everyday family life. With Eden Care, getting healthcare is easy and you are backed by a trusted insurance partner with years of experience. No confusing terms, just complete protection for your entire family. Step back into peace. Step into experience you can rely on. Reach out right now at 059-692-1844 and choose Eden Care today. Eden Care is brought to you by Acacia Health Insurance, a member of the Enterprise Group.
The Global Conference on Human Resource in Africa returns August 12th to the 15th at the Kempiski Hotel, Accra. It's 4 days of converging HR professionals, business executives, policy makers, and industry leaders from over 15 countries on AI, leadership, workforce transformation, and the future of work. We will be joined by Honorable Rashid Papu, the Labour Minister, Michael D'Ambrose, Fortune 50 HR and Transformation Leader, Achal Khanna of SHRM India, Daniel Vargas of Microsoft, Sheamus Clancy of LinkedIn, Dr. Francis Aduku of CIHRM, Uzuaku Nwobi of PwC Nigeria, Martin Kirangu of Deal Local Payroll, and more. Expect keynotes, panels, innovation labs, masterclasses, and curated tours. Sponsors and exhibitors include SHRM, LinkedIn, MTN, PwC, Deal Local Payroll, Atlas Copilot, CIFA, and more. Visit gchrafrica.com or call 055-408-1727. That is 055-408-1727.
Every mosquito study run away.
This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, bulk oil distribution companies in the country have switched to spot pricing for the various petroleum products. This could result in prices being changed as and when there's any review on the international market. Now, based on these changes, we could be moving away from prices being reviewed by the oil marketing companies every 2 weeks to every day. Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Dr. Kweku Ofori, says the current global market development has forced them to go this way.
That unstable climate that we find ourselves in, most of these IOTCs have returned to LCs and cash advance payment before they close some of the transactions, because they also want to be protected against the exposure, judging from the experiences that they had with the Russia-Ukraine. I think the lessons from that has also created a situation whereby people are putting in place measures to also reduce their exposure to risk. So that is also a key factor going into next market and the next pricing window. So you could clearly see that most of the marketing companies will be triggering prices on a day, on a spot basis, to also avoid a situation whereby they take a position and then before they could even get the products to their stations, the prices have either gone up so high or has gone down so low that they will have to take the hit on that. So I think it's trying to shake up, and it will be a reflective of the market dynamics.
Dr. Kweku Ofori, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. Now, the holding company for Zen Petroleum has posted a profit before tax of more than 137 million Ghana cedis ending June this year. This was captured in the group's financials that was released after it listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. The financial statement showed some strong growth in most areas of its operations for the first 6 months of this year. Now, the country ended last year exporting far more than what it imported. The Ghana Physical Service annual merchandise trade statistics showed that Ghana realized 148 billion Ghana cedis more than what it imported. In dollar terms, it was worth 11.5 billion. There is more in the following Business Desk report.
The annual International Merchandise Trade Statistics report showed that in 2025, Ghana got 654 billion cedis with respect to total earnings from exports. In dollar terms, that was worth 32 billion cedis. Gold alone brought in about 254 billion cedis, representing more than 60% of the total earnings for last year. Asia remained Ghana's largest trading region when it comes to imports and exports. China emerged as the country where Ghana sourced most of its imports for the year 2025. Diesel and petrol imports alone exceeded 51 billion cedis. On the African continent, the increase in exports was driven by a significant spike in cocoa products, cashew nuts, and tuna, while food imports declined slightly.
And that was a Business Desk report. Meanwhile, government statistician Dr. Gyasi says the numbers are quite encouraging despite recent challenges that hit the economy.
Ghana exported to 51 African countries and imported from 55 countries across the continent. South Africa remained Ghana's largest export destination within Africa, while Nigeria was the leading source of imports, especially petroleum products. Trade with Greece also remained strong. Ghana exported significantly more to Burkina Faso, Togo, and Cote d'Ivoire than it imported from them. Exports to Burkina Faso alone exceeded 11.8 billion Ghana cedis, driven mainly by plastics, iron, and steel products, as well as manufactured goods. The report further highlights positive developments in food trade. Food exports increased by more than 33 billion cedis in 2025, driven largely by cocoa products, cashew nuts, tuna, and shea products.
And that is government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu. Now, accounting and financial services firm PwC Ghana is warned that the current economic stability that the country is enjoying could be tested in the coming months. It is particularly worried about inflation, which could go beyond 10% by the end of this year. We have more in this report.
According to PwC Ghana, inflation is likely to rise in the coming month and could breach the government's upper target band of 10% by December. This could mean that the single-digit inflation target may elude Ghana this year. The auditing and accounting firm argued that its concerns have been influenced by current development in the Middle East, the possibility of fuel price increases in the coming weeks, and the potential impact on transport fares. Furthermore, the firm was of the view that the government might be forced to increase spending in the second half of the year, particularly on capital expenditure and job creation, which could affect its fiscal position. On Ghana's debt situation, the accounting and auditing firm added that although the debt to GDP ratio has declined, the nominal debt stock has increased significantly, and that should be a concern for everyone. On revenue, PricewaterhouseCoopers expressed concern about the government's ability to meet its end-of-year revenue target, arguing that development in the Middle East could negatively affect revenue collections.
And that is a Business Desk report. And Kenneth, tonight on the PM Express Business Edition is still about the mid-year budget review. Right. And we are trying to concentrate on the revenue concerns, whether we'll end the year raising more revenue than what we've gotten. For half year, we're down by 1.5 billion Ghana cedis, and I'll be engaging the technical advisor to the finance minister, that is Dr. Tue Champon. He will be our guest in studio, and also tax partner at PwC Ghana, Abekujan Kwanza. And in the businesses corner, Mark Beduabuaji, Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. These are three distinguished persons will be my guests tonight in studio as we look at the mid-year budget review and the revenue concerns.
Thank you very much, George, for business. Before we get to your say very shortly, let's go to the Volta region now, because the countdown is on for the Volta region edition of Joy News' Democracy is Not for Sale campaign. The forum takes place tomorrow, Friday at 4 p.m. in Ho, bringing together citizens, political actors, and key institutions to examine the impact of votes buying and campaign financing on Ghana's democracy. Ahead of the event, the Joy News research team has been on the ground in Ho, engaging residents and gathering data on public perceptions of money in politics. Maxwell Akloboto is a member of the research team on ground who have been engaging voters in Ho since Monday ahead of the forum. Max, what have you gathered so far since your team landed in Ho?
Gemma, interestingly, we've actually interacted with over 200 persons across various sectors in the city. We've visited market women, traders. We've visited hospitals to speak with health workers. We've also spoken to tertiary institutions, the students. We've visited the UHAS and then the Old Technical University, just to actually get the perception of these individuals when it comes to vote buying and democracy as well.
Just yesterday, the Supreme Court abolished the delegate system of internal elections within political parties. Do your findings suggest what this could mean for votes buying within political parties?
In fact, yesterday when we were interacting with some of these individuals trying to collect data when it comes to their perception about vote buying and then democracy, in fact, they were like, if this is going to be the decision, then it means it's going to actually cost more when it comes to elections internally among the political parties. If they want to actually give them something as an incentive to induce their votes, it means induce them to vote for them. It means it's going to cost them more. So they are saying maybe this decision by the the Supreme Court is going to actually help get this situation of people actually trying to give them items and money in order to induce them to vote for them.
Now, the event is tomorrow. What are we supposed to expect from you?
Gemma, is going to be an interactive session with the people of Ho. We've invited a couple of them, including chiefs, traditional leaders, and other groups who are coming to share their views and also give us what we should also give to our leaders when it comes to those in charge of democracy in the state. So we are going to hear from the people. It's going to be people-centered. We hear from them and we give them what we have also gathered. We are going to give them, project our data that we have collected so that we see the overview when it comes to their perception about democracy as a state. Yeah.
Maxwell Akloboto, thank you very much. Democracy is Not for Sale Regional Citizens and Politicians Forum is brought to you by the Joy News Impact Makers Foundation. Make a date with us on Friday, 31st July, and join the conversation live from home. Now, let's do other stories. Praise poured in for the late Apostle Safo Kantanka's legacy of innovation and creating jobs for Ghanaian youth. Even though a court injunction was in place and the Christo Asafo mission told members to stay away, many still turned up to pay their last respects. Here are excerpts from the tributes delivered in honor of Apostle Kojo Safo Kantanka.
Was a remarkable fusion of spirituality, innovation, leadership, and service. He built churches, industries, schools, research and centers, and institutions. He inspired millions to believe in their own potential. He challenged Africa to think beyond dependence and to embrace self-reliance through knowledge, technology, and hard work.
Well, from tributes, let's do sports now. Benaya is here. Benaya, what's happening in sports?
So Infantino is under fire because your man wants to sell
about 21% of FIFA's FIFA World Cup, the shares to private investors, and UEFA are saying over their dead body it's not going to happen. So they are saying that they believe the venture is a way of Infantino trying to remain lucrative in the job while overseeing FIFA, so that in case he even vacates his presidency in 2031, FIFA, he will still have at least, let's say, something to still
hold on
to. Yeah, so they are not going to allow it to happen. And also it's kind of like poisonous to football, because imagine you have private investors buying shares to the FIFA World Cup, and you have the richest man in Ghana who has about a lot of money to invest in it, and other countries also invest in. They will want to have a say in what happens on the field,
right?
Because if I'm representing Ghana and somebody's representing, you want the best for his country. So a similar thing happened at the World Cup, where an American player was suspended. And
yes,
Trump
intervened.
Yeah, exactly. So they are like, they don't want those kind of stuff to happen. But before that, Infantino has been speaking, trying to explain the importance of this idea.
FIFA for Enterprise, or FFE, is actually a proposal, an offer. It's part of a democratic process, a consultation process, and above all, it is an opportunity, but not an obligation.
Yeah. So the profits that's expected to be made from this to FIFA is about $4.something billion. And if you're a Ghanaian, you would want to say yes to it, because out of the 211 associations, he just needs more than half of the votes.
Okay.
If so, those threatening to boycott it are like France, England, and Germany. If they don't even vote, the other countries will say yes, because they will need the money. So if Ghana gets $8 million from FIFA, and FIFA says if you say yes, you are going to get like triple the amount, wouldn't you say yes? You say yes.
Well,
so that's the issue at hand right now.
He's the best friend of Donald Trump. They say birds of a feather flock together, don't they?
Yeah, so that's what's happening in sports right now.
Thank you so much, Benaya. It's now time for our favorite segment.
I know my koliwa, I know my koliwa. I know my koliwa, I know my koliwa. I know my koliwa, I know my koliwa. I know my koliwa, I know my koliwa.
Eden is here, and today has been a very busy news day. From the courts to the presidency.
Then you can go to Gomwa in Porta.
I know, right?
Yes, and then you can also. Okay, so I'll take you to the last one.
Okay.
Where you can go to the US. But anyway, people are reacting, and almost the reactions are in response to the Sedina acquittal. This one, and most of them are late about trying to cut them short. This one says Ghana is such a sad country. Just one sitting and she's already discharged. The court deals only with the poor. Now, this one from Sambanaman says it's very strange how technical errors in judgment will free Sedina Tamakloe, who couldn't account for huge physical taxpayers' money. This one from Kwesi in Kaswa says, I don't think that Madam Sedina should be freed. What evidence again do they need? This from Francis in Accra says, that why is the MPP and its agent saying if they are not happy with the appellate court, acquitting and discharging Sedina, they should bring Ken to also come and get tried and sentenced, and later he also goes to the appellate court for acquittal. That's one interesting one. Now, Prophet Wisdom Agbozome says MPP is not surprised of the ruling by the High Court. We know from day one that this woman will be acquitted. Nana Ikuya Mwabwati in Abulikuma Central says the promises this incompetent government made whilst in opposition and its actions in office are glaringly contradictory. The much touted promise reset now appears to be nothing more than a mirage. This one from Angelo Fiagbe says the whole Court of Appeal seems highly political from the angle of the bench. And the final one from Baba Chairman in Tamale says, so what exactly is going on in this country to the extent that there is a flagrant display of partiality by some judges? And some very interesting comments in there. So yes, before I leave,
right.
Sedina was brought into the country from US, but there's a trend where politicians are taking their kids to the US for schooling.
Right.
Babin has a very special message for them. Let's listen to Abba Babin.
Who rush your children abroad to study, I beg you, you don't love your children, because you know you are going to lose them. It's when they study here and get to a stage of maturity and they want to advance, and they're going to do masters, PhD, and that kind of thing, then you have hope that they will come back. Those you carry as babies and send there, they don't even come to your funeral. They don't know you. They don't have any attachment. They don't like your country. There's no patriotism there. They don't know what is a family. Because over there, there's nothing like that.
So what exactly is his point?
His point is that if you want to take your child out of Ghana, you have to wait and let them.
Oh, please.
Let them when they are
when they finish
first degree, then you can go and do masters.
Adam, you see, you listen to politicians at your own peril. They say one thing and behind closed doors they are doing another thing.
Well, Kenneth, if you want your children to be at your funeral, like
please.
happening in Gumwa in Porta,
please.
Let them be in Ghana and then take them so that you will know that indeed they love you and they love your country and they have your value. So yes, Kenneth, that's Babin's advice. As to whether you listen,
I will listen with a pinch of salt. Thank you very much, Adam. And that's it for Newsnight this evening. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. My name is Kenneth. Gyasi?
My name is Gemma. Appiah.
Don't forget to do the two this evening. Brush your teeth.